the cognitive presence, how are the kids making connections? How are we breaking down our lessons into these modular activities and preparing for the hybrid teaching that we're going to have to do? We want to make sure that our students are really thinking and able to have those deep learning opportunities that they would have in the in-person teaching format. But we have to remember we need to break down these units that we have normally used into both in-person, face-to-face, and online priorities. So when you're working with your students face-to-face, the benefits that you might see are in that left column. And when you're working with your students online, the benefits that you might see are in that right column. We are going to need to make what's important in our lesson that the kids will see us for happen when we're in Google Meets or when we're live streaming and when they're there in our classrooms. And then the things that we know that they will be creating and doing with all those online internet platforms, we are going to make sure that that happens in our online learning management systems, and try and prioritize the tasks that will be most effective in that manner when we're lesson planning. You can see in the left column here, there's a lot of discussion in the notes on nonverbal communication and socializing and learning from doing with role playing and brainstorming in person. So the students that will be demonstrating a lot of their motor skills or that like to learn from socializing face-to-face opportunities on Google Meets and in when they're live streaming with each other, that's a great opportunity to use those parts of your lessons there. Whereas we can transfer a lot of our online priorities that would be the parts of our lessons, that would be great for collaborating on a project with group work. You have the Google chats and stuff that we can work with, and so sharing your Google Docs and Google Slides and working on some of these other new platforms that you might be learning about as well. Creating things, basically. You don't need to be right there on top of them teaching them how to do that. You've already done that. So now they're showing you what they've learned, and that's a great opportunity for online stuff. So anything that allows them to show what they've learned critically, that they can analyze and they can work at their own pace on, getting assessments from them, creating all that type of content and making it easy to access. That's what you're going to need to put in your online formats. So take the step that you would do then for creating your cognitive presence would be to make this sort of list, if you will, of the parts of your unit and the parts of your daily lessons that would be better done face to face and then better done online, so that you are able to organize your week easier and organize what you're doing in each particular day a little bit easier. Some of you may have already been very aware of how to flip your classrooms and work with blended learning. You're still going to do the same concept when you're planning for the cognitive presence with the hybrid model. You're going to think about it in these three different stages. You're going to have your pre-videos, pre activities, or your introductions, if you will, that where you're going to pique their interest and you're going to make sure you know what they already know so that you can gear your lessons towards that. All that can be done either in online discussions or it could be done in person, depending on how you like to gauge that information. So you're still going to have that happen when you're doing the hybrid and flipped distance learning. You're then going to do all their hands-on activity where you're flipping that and creating engaging things to do online. So you could use things like listed here, Edpuzzle, and all of our Google products and all of those new platforms that you're learning about that allow the kids to create and engage themselves into deeper thinking about their content. You could then pair some of your own handmade videos or videos that you found online to further engage their discussions online and to further their independent research online. So this is a little bit more of that independent stuff that's happening. Provided guided templates for them so they can complete these activities, and they will then post their work for you to assess. So post video activity, the last part of your lesson, will have that practice stuff that you're used to doing and working with review opportunities. That stuff could be done in person. That stuff could also be done with online manipulatives and online tools. It could be a combination of both. So you're going to take a look at your lessons that you normally would have done completely in person and kind of divide it up into what's good for online, what's good for in person, face to face, or live meetings. And then take a look at each activity and say, what am I doing for my intro? Is that going to be best online? Or can where I can give them a way of working independently to drive their interest and assess their knowledge? Or do I want to have my introduction done live? Then you'll flip their creating and showing their knowledge, and you can have your post activities kind of be joints between the live streaming and the in-person, or you can decide if it would be best suitable with your conclusion to be done live streams or be done completely independently. The modular approach is really just like your traditional approach, chunked into smaller portions and a little bit more directed for self-paced. So we've already established how to break down our units and our lessons so that we have what's best done online, what's best done in person or live streams. Now you're going to take a look at how you want to set that up in your virtual classroom. So through Google Classroom or through Seesaw, you'll look at what you're doing and you'll create separate links or separate activities for each part of your module like it is listed on the left-hand side here. This will help your parents and your students work a little bit more independently as though it's a checklist. So days 1 and 2 should have some direct instructing with modeling and discussion happening, and you can have links in Classroom or Seesaw to your calendar where you're doing the live streaming is happening, or to recorded videos of you doing this, or maybe it's in person. You decide how you set that up beforehand, but days 1 and 2, days 3 and 4, and days 5 should look just like the tempo you usually have going through each of your units in your classroom, broken down into little modular sections. This allows flexibility, like is written on the right-hand side, for students to be working independently at home if they're older, or for parents to have the ability to figure out what their kids need to access and need to learn as though it's a checklist. And it creates a nice flow for the learning so there's not a lot of repeat going from one day to the next as well when they're going back and forth from in-person to at home. I know a lot of you already do the breaking down your classes into whole group and small group sessions, even individualized one-on-ones, and you're really great at that in your classrooms. You can do the same thing online. So I have this up here because that should be part of your planning too. When you're breaking down your units and you're deciding what's best in person, what's best not, you may also want to assign days that you have certain small groups meeting with you live and your goals for that, and when you're going to be able to meet individually for real-time feedback for students. It doesn't have to be in person virtually. It should just be real time, meaning done quickly and meaningful to the students. It could be right in their student work, real time feedback, or maybe they do need to have that one on one tutoring session with you. Your whole group sessions will be great for building that community and will be great for making those connections to the big topics and getting everybody excited about the week. It shouldn't be really long and drawn out for the younger students. It should be a really quick way to get everybody excited and introduce a concept. Your overviews of the work for the week could be done with recordings from you, or could be done in really short whole group session clips throughout the week. Small group sessions will be great to double check on how students are following along with their units and differentiate your instruction for kids that really need it done differently or at different levels. It will be a great way for you to facilitate small some socializing too. Students really seem to enjoy having those small group discussions. It's less intimidating than the whole group discussions, and it's easier to facilitate over Google Meet as well when it's small group. So in your modules that you're making, decide where you're going to have your whole group sessions, what part of those lessons will your small groups be the best at meeting at, and for your individual kids, uh, schedule in some time where you might be able to check in with kids that look like they're starting to fall behind or need that extra help, and be able to give them that real-time feedback in their actual assignments as well as they're working on it. Now, we just went over the cognitive presence and how that will connect with designing your lessons so that you're really pulling that meaning making out and still optimizing your hands-on time with the kids, your face-to-face time with the kids, and optimizing and your online platforms for your students. Now we're going to discuss the special needs of each child, all the different ways that they learn. Just because our kids are on the computer doesn't mean everything has to be computer work. How can we meet the learning styles virtually or hybrid for all learners? You can see this nice map here. I love how this is laid out. I'm such a visual learner myself. This graphic here shows me the main topic learning styles, and we all know already: verbal, oral, visual, logical, social, solitary, just went around the loop, all those different ways that kids access their information. Sometimes it's hard to plan lessons for all the different ways that people learn, but it can be tempted, at least when we're doing it online. In an online course, and I'm reading that first top left part of the box, in an online course, instructors utilize repetition by introducing concepts and then reinforcing that concept through the tools mentioned above. And I'm going to pause this video here at this point, and I'm going to pick it up in the next video as I'm just about at my 15-minute mark for Prezi.